Welcome back. In today's episode, got a little bit more on this. As you can see by the thumbnail, I finally managed to sort out the suspension and the stance on the car. So as you can see, the front's sitting very low and the rear is sitting quite high. Now, as I said before, this is due to a mismatch in the springs. I've got odd springs on the front and the back. I believe the rears are just standard Earnshaw springs. They're only like 35mm drop, whereas the fronts, I'll be honest, I don't know what they are, but I'm guessing they're probably going to be a 40, maybe a 45. But with having the V6 in the front and being a bit heavier, it's obviously crushing them down a little bit more. So I have these, which I originally got with a 5-stroke conversion. So that's what we're going to fit in the rear today. We'll see how it looks. If we're happy with how it looks, I might just leave the 16 valve ones. I might just leave the 16 valve ones in the front. If I'm not happy with how it looks, it's still sitting a little bit low on the front. I have these, which are the matching springs to them rears. However, they're a little bit more like hard work to do. They're a little bit crusty, so I would sooner not use them if I can help it. But they are V6 springs. They're a slightly stronger poundage, so they will hold the front end up a little bit better rather than bouncing on the bump stops when we're sort of motoring along. Right, so what we're going to do is try and just show you here. Take this nut and bolt, this bolt out here, drop the shocker off so we can drop the wheel down lower, and that'll allow it to hopefully just drop the spring out. And it should be that quick and simple. All going to plan, provided this bolt comes out. I've had it out, well, I would like to say I've had it out recently, but I haven't. That would be a lie. But we'll see how it goes, we'll see how we get to. There we are. You've seen how easy it was to change the springs. Literally one bolt out. I had my faithful assistant to help us lift and lower the wheel, which does help. It can be done by yourself, but it's a little bit fiddlier. But that's the difference there in the two springs. So I'm not sure what effect it's going to have, this having closer together coils, but this one's got smaller coils on the top. This one just seems to be the same diameter all the way around. Both seem to be the same height. So I don't know whether it's actually going to lower the car or whether it's going to give us a worse ride. The irony is this one, for having smaller coils, actually feels to be a lot firmer than this one. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Worst case scenario, I'll put the other springs back in again and put it back to how it was and deal with it at a later date. That's the rear springs on only. We're unsure. We've been looking at it for a while now, trying to work out whether it is actually lower or not. I think it might be just a fraction. I will try. I'll swap to you the two pictures and see what you think. So that's this one. That's the other one. Back to this one. I don't know. I don't know whether it's lower or not. It's not as low as I would like it. We'll just say that. What I think I'll do is, though, I'm going to leave that on. I've got the other two springs here. I might still try and put the other two springs on, because as I said before, these are just the 16 valve springs. These aren't the V6 springs, so I might swap the other springs on, give us a little bit more strength in the front, because like I say, when I hit bumps at speed, it does bounce down onto the bump stops, which is kind of a bit annoying, and it has actually chewed a little bit of the inner fenders away. However, we have some good news. I've secured some, we'll say, some very exciting parts for the car. Just secured them today there, and I should hopefully be picking them up, and they'll be coming to the channel at some point in the next week or two. See how we get on. After a little bit of humming and hawing over whether I should or shouldn't do it, I've decided I'm just going to fit the other lowering springs that I've got as well. They're little bit scabbier than them, but they'll still do the job. So what I need to do is, I need to take off that bottom nut there, split the bottom ball joint, split this one, track rod end, big hub nut in the centre. Once they're off, I've got the brake caliper to take off as well. That's a 2-second job, couple of bolts from the back, then whip off the top bolt, and that should get the strut out. Once I've got the strut out on the bench, then I can work with it from there. Took us about 20 minutes. The hardest part of getting these struts off normally is the bottom ball joint, just breaking them away. It's easier sometimes if you've got a spare pair of hands, somebody just who can stand on the bar to keep a bit of weight on it while you knock it with a hammer. But effectively over the years, the best way I've found of getting them out is just by shocking them with a hammer. Unfortunately, I haven't got the biggest of hammers here. They're all in my toolboxes at work. So anyway, back to what we're doing. These are the old 16 valve springs. They're looking a bit crusty and rusty. And these ones here are the springs that came off. These ones here are the springs that came off the V6. So these are the ones that I want to use. Basically, I need to put these onto here. So the reason I'm not just swapping the whole strut over is because this is the 5 stud conversion. So this has also got 5 studs, whereas this one's just got the 4. So basically, that's what I need to take is just the springs off it, pop the springs on here and see what kind of difference that makes. One of the things I will say, which is very important, is pay attention to how these come off. because I see so many posts are going, which way up does this go? Does it go this way or that way? So like, it can very easily get very confused as to which way it needs to go up or down. But yeah, just pay very close attention to how they come off. The other thing you'll need for this, you will need it for this, so unless your car is super low, there's some spring clamps. You've seen us do this before in the Civic video when I put the springs on. I'll be honest, give it a bit more time. Had I been a bit more prepared for this, I probably would have had these off and powder coated or sandblasted, but this is all just a temporary measure because I think over the winter I'm going to do a full refresh on the suspension. I want to polybush it, put new shocks and springs on, because I think the shocks are a little bit, well, they're not leaking, but they're just a little bit wick, you know. So anyway, yeah, crack on. I'll get these 2 springs swapped over. I might swap a couple of other things over as well. Like you'll notice this has got the bracket on, whereas this one's just cable tied on. So I'll swap a couple of things over like that as well, just to make it good, and then we'll go from there. Right, that's the spring on. So 2 things you must make sure you do when you do the spring. Again, same as I said before, there's a little like cut out in here. When you put the spring on, you want to make sure the spring sits around up against that, so that you know the bottom of the seat spring, the bottom of the spring is seated correctly. Now the next thing you want to do is the top of the spring sits on a rubber bush. Now the rubber bush is see how it's thicker here and thinner here? So the rubber bush is angled, so what you want to do is, once you get it on, you want to rotate your rubber bush until it's sitting in the middle, as it were. You'll know if it's sitting off, because it'll pull off to one side. It'll still fit, but it'll pull off to one side. Now what that'll do is, if you get that wrong, nothing massively major, but it just means when you're turning on at very low speeds, you'll get like a clunk out of your spring. Or that's what I've found anyway. So yeah, so make sure that they're sitting where they should be, pressing on and lined up correctly, which is where that is now. So put all the bush and the bearing and everything back on the top, so we're all happy with that. So this is now ready to go back in. I have also changed this over from the other one, because this was, as I say, this was cable tied on mine. So I've got the nice proper clip on there. The only other thing I've done is I've took this little brake shield off the bottom, but that's purely because I'm running bigger brakes and I've had to bend it out the way when I fitted the brakes the first time. Now I've got the strut off, took the opportunity to actually remove it and that'll do that. Now what I'm going to do in the future is I'll either, if I decide to stay with the 4 studs, take this apart again, change the bearing, probably get the strut powder coated, do a nice job of it, or failing that I might actually increase up to the 5 stud the next time, change the wheels and look for new brakes and stuff, but I don't know, I'm gonna wing it. So anyway, refitting is pretty much the reverse order of the order I took it off in. So I'll slide it up, put the cap and the bolt on the top, pop the bottom ball joint in once the drive shaft's through, and then put the track rod end on, and then it's just a matter of building the brakes up from that point on. Pretty straightforward. So we'll crack on, get that done, and see what kind of difference this makes to it. Right, and there we'll have it. So I fitted the other springs on the front. I think it looks a bit better now because well, with there's a little bit more gap on this side, obviously because these are stronger springs. These are designed for the V6. There's a little bit more gap there, so ultimately it's gained us a little bit of height here. I know the whole idea is everybody wants low lows, but last time it was kind of the rake was a bit off. But I think that looks, I know it's only minimal, but that looks a hell of a lot better to me. And I know I've got the proper poundage front springs on now eventually. So So yeah, I'm happy with that. I've only done this side for now. I'll just do the other side off camera. It's not going to be a massive amount of difference, but it has actually raised it up a little bit. Where the other side I can't get 2 fingers in, this side I can just get 2 fingers in and give it a little wiggle. So it's only a little bit, but hopefully it's enough. As I say, and it'll have slightly stronger poundage on the front now, so it might not on the bump stops when I'm cruising, as it were. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm pleased I've done it. It has levelled the car out a little bit. Although in my opinion now, I either need bigger wheels, or I need the whole thing lowered a bit more. I think possibly bigger wheels might be a better option, because lowering the whole thing, I don't fancy losing too much ground clearance. But like I say, I'm happy with that. I've got a little bit better ground clearance there now, which is where I was struggling before, because it always seemed to be digging down in. So yeah, happy with that. It's a result. And there we have it. That's about all we've got for today. As I say, I've only done this one side just to see what it was like, and I'm quite happy with the result, so I'm pretty more than happy to do the other side. I'll just do that probably tomorrow, maybe it's Monday. As usual, it's getting on Saturday night, it's late on Saturday night, and I'll be honest, I want to get home. It's been a long week, so we'll get home, tie things off, and not worry too much about them. Once again, I would like to thank all the new subscribers. Without you guys, there isn't really a lot of point in doing this channel. I mean, I would still get stuff done, just it wouldn't be at quite the rate that I'm getting stuff done. Yeah, I'm quite happy with how quick things are getting done, how much I'm turning work around. I mean, so some of these jobs, I mean, these springs, for instance, the suspension on this I've been sitting on now 5 years since I did the conversion. It popped up on my memories the other day. 5 years I've been sitting on these springs and not done anything about it, you know. So yeah, as I say, all these little things do kind of make a big difference and help you out to no end. So yeah, thank you to all new subscribers. I'll drop a link down below for the merch. Just hop below, comment yourself some merch, see what's happened, support the channel. It would be very much appreciated. Just give us a shout. Show season's coming up. It would be nice if some of the boys and girls out there would rep the channel. It would, as I say, it all helps. Yeah. So with that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. Thank you.